Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Michelle Aubin and Linda Lang.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. I am Michelle Aubin here with my co-host, Linda Lang. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Life is good.
Good. Well, I want to start us off with talking about manifestation. And this topic never grows old. There's always something to explore and a way to experiment and play with this topic. And so I have a story to share about manifesting a pair of white capris and a pair of gray running shoes. So have you ever manifested anything so directly, Linda?
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. My husband.
Yes.
Yes.
You talked about that in one of the episodes.
And a number of other things that, sometimes when things are aligned, poof, it's magic.
The reason I want to tell this story is because it really it's a mundane item, a pair of pants and a pair of running shoes. But the way that it showed up for me was undeniable because it was so quick and it was so simple that it was a little bit jaw-dropping. And I could say, well, no, it wasn't a house and it wasn't a car and it wasn't a husband. But if you follow Abraham Hicks, they say it's just as easy to manifest the big things as it is the small things. So I just want to tell this story to have a little bit of lighthearted fun. And it ties in with, we've talked about clearing the clutter and all of that. So I was going through some drawers. I organized all my spring and summer clothing and eliminated some other items because I want spring to come. So that's what I do, get it ready to wear. And I got everything set. And I said, I don't really need to buy anything to myself. But it would be nice if I had a pair of white capris. And I never wear white capris. That's why I don't have them. But I thought, well, maybe this year I'll wear white capris and mix it up a bit. And within 48 hours, someone handed me 2 pairs of white capris. And because I had just said that to myself so casually, but it was kind of noticeable. It wasn't like I wrote it in my journal and I did a vision board. It was just like a offhand comment to myself. And I was like, oh my God. And they fit. One of them fit perfectly and one of them didn't. So I gave that one away. And I thought that was the end of that. Well, then the next day I was heading to my sister's house and putting on my shoes, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice? It was not even conscious. It was semi-conscious. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a really good pair of running shoes so I can exercise? And I only like gray shoes these days. I'm very particular about the color shoes I wear. And it wasn't even fully conscious, my thought. It was just this offhand, thing. That would be nice. And I get to her house, and she says, do you want these shoes? And they were gray running shoes. And it was not even an hour later. And I told her the story. You will not believe this. I just manifested these. So those are 2 stories that I thought I would share in the spirit of fun. And what I took away from it was that the trust factor, and that I didn't even try. It wasn't like I wanted or needed these. It was the attitude of, it would be nice if.
So manifestation doesn't have to be such hard work after all.
No, and I have to say, my trust, they say trust in the universe, God will provide, and all these sayings. I was like, oh my God, I get it. And the other thing about it that was so enlightening for me was those items appearing in that manner was better than me getting the money, going to the store, trying things on in the store, not liking them, trying something else. It saved me a trip, having to earn the money. It was better. So when we allow things to come to us in the best way, they come in a better way. Money is irrelevant.
I have kind of a fun, sort of similar story that, manifestation just like that with that kind of unconscious thought. It actually happened on a Thursday, right before Good Friday. I was doing some errands and I wanted to run into Costco really quickly, which is kind of a joke to do that.
To do it quickly.
And right before, I'm pretty good at Costco. I can do
Right.
Costco quickly, but right before the Easter weekend. And I pull into the parking lot and the parking lot's really busy. And I'm just like driving through and I'm thinking, I don't really need to go to Costco. I think I'm just going to, if I can't find a parking space, I'm going to just, keep driving and leave. And I drive by a spot and someone pulls out and I'm like, there's nobody behind me. So I just backed right in. I'm like, okay, I guess the universe wants me at Costco.
Right? There's something you need in there. I love that.
Oh, it was great fun because I really was like at that, no, it's not worth it, and I actually managed to get in, not have a cart and get through and be out in record time despite the crowds. It's just wonky when that happens.
So what I hear in that story is that you let go of the goal and you said, okay, it doesn't feel right. I'm going to let go. And when you let go is when the flow happened. That's the trick.
Yeah, it's very much the whole thought of having to, drive through the parking lot and try and find a space and, fight my way through the crowds was very much that kind of upstream energy, paddling upstream, as Abraham Hicks would say. And I just let go, if it's meant to be. And it was, apparently. And and I think I got in and out. I don't even think I spent $50, which was like amazing at Costco. So, but it's perfect. It was perfect.
You got what you needed. It wasn't a hassle. You got the right parking space. Let's talk about that upstream idea, because that is something that Abraham Hicks talks about frequently. And if you're used to paddling upstream, it can be a concept that's like, what does that mean to not go upstream but to go downstream? So do you have any more to say about that? I mean, how do you if you see yourself pushing upstream, what do you do to get into that downstream idea?
I would say it really depends. If I have that self-awareness, because sometimes when we're in the middle of struggle, we're so engrossed in it that we forget to step away. So I'm much better at stepping away now than I used to be, but I still sometimes get caught up in it. But when I do catch myself, I mean, it can just be as simple as, taking a breath and saying, what does my guidance say about this? Or why am I pushing so hard? Now, if you're pushing that hard for something, maybe the timing is off, maybe, things aren't lined up, maybe it's not meant to be, or maybe it's even in the wrong direction.
And to find out which it is, you check in with your guidance.
Yeah, or step away from it and kind of see where the dust lands, right? And if it is something that's meant to be, it will percolate and come back up. Or if the timing is just off, then maybe it'll be put off on the shelf, and then I'll be called forward. It's kind of like my Clear Connections workshop, how I got the message and I put it off to the shelf, and then the messages kept coming that, it's time. So it's really about being in the flow and allowing life to guide you, show you the opportunities and the invitations and the possibilities instead of trying to take control and fighting and making things happen. I mean, it's such an exhausting way of trying to create your life, really.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel better to relax on the stream and let it carry you in the currents gently than to swim upstream. The challenge I have sometimes, I'm going to use the story you told of when to go to the store, when is it right, when my frustration signals are triggered. And I find more than ever, I don't like stores, and I don't like shopping, and I don't like crowds. And I just do it when I need something. So I have a tendency sometimes to put off going to a store maybe longer than I need to, which might not be listening to my guidance, because I anticipate that it's going to be this difficult thing. And so sometimes I think that is just a fear-based thing I'm doing, putting it off when I don't need to. And it's a tricky thing for me to go, like, if you need something, go, it'll be okay, and trust in the process, versus I'll go tomorrow. I don't feel it's the right time. So knowing when it's not the right time, and knowing when I'm just avoiding something that I'm building up in my mind as a negative,
Yeah, it is pretty tricky for sure. And I think maybe part of the vibration you're putting out there is this wishy-washiness.
Yeah.
I want to go, but I don't want to go. And I think for me, when I decide that I'm going to go, I mean, how many times have I got to the store and what I went there to buy is on sale, or I got the last one and it's, really good quality or some crazy thing, that I actually tend to manifest quite a bit of things like that, which is fantastic. It's great fun. But I think that sometimes the universe needs to see us kind of fully commit, to the actions as well. It's good to go with the flow and follow, but also to have a certain level of clarity in our actions as well.
Well, my new game that I play is to say, what would it be like to go to the store and have a good time and have it be easy? And, just the Abraham Hicks talks about, I don't know what their language is around this, but that if it feels like there's resistance, just pull back and have a smaller bite. They don't use that language, but I'm using that language. Just pull back and make it smaller. So I tend to put off going to the store for a very long time, and then I have to go, right? But instead of doing that, now I'm in the game of, well, when you go, you can trust that it will be what it needs to be. It will be easy. It will be flow. And that's new. So I will report in later on how that's going.
That's fantastic. I think one of the issues about kind of waiting too long until you absolutely have to is that energetically you're like giving yourself no choice.
Yes. Yes.
And of course that's very limiting and restrictive, and you're expecting the worst and difficult experiences, and we tend to get what we expect. Not always. I mean, sometimes the universe can say, look, it can be this easy.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, most of the time it is not as bad as I build it up in my mind. Most of the time it's okay, So, but you're right. Yeah. It's a pattern I'm playing with, shifting.
Well, I love shifting patterns. So definitely let us know how that works out for you.
Yeah, the game of stores, crowds, all of that.
Well, the outer world reflects the inner world.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
it does. It does. So, any other interesting manifestation stories you have?
I think manifestation is, I'm going to say a double-edged sword, but I don't mean it as a sword in the way most people would take that. I mean that it has two sides to it, that we can consciously want to manifest something, and those are little miracles that we have, and then sometimes the universe has a specific manifestation in store for us. And definitely, they're miracles too, actually, because it's like the whole universe conspires to get you to a really specific place that's, for your highest good or in line with your purpose. It's a little bit different than, going to the store and yay, something I want to buy is on sale. It's a totally different ball game. But I've had experiences of both, and sometimes we don't actually recognize the kind of universe putting us on a new path until we're a little bit down that path, and we can see how it's impacted us and the changes that have taken place.
Well, that's an interesting metaphor, the idea of going down a new path, because sometimes in my past that would happen, and at the moment it felt like disruption and chaos and loss. And I've learned to frame it or see it the way you just described it, that there's more going on than I always may realize. And once I'm down that path a little further, I will understand the kind of beauty of that path. But making, when we're nudged to a different direction, it can feel like, what is going on in my life?
Especially if we need that kind of cosmic 2x4 to actually, wake us up to a different path.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so stuck in our habits and our way of looking at things or even goals that we need a little shake up to have a different perspective and new opportunities. Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me when I got into HUNA, and having a really, I think we've talked about this, about having a negative experience with another healing modality, and then that whole purpose in my life was to get me to HUNA.
The purpose of the negative experience with the other modality, right?
Right.
Right. To say this isn't your path, your path is in this other place.
Not even necessarily that HUNA is my path, but that HUNA will open the path for you and help you become more of the master on your path than a victim on your path.
Very well put. I don't have anything to add to that. It's if there's anything else you want to say before we wrap up.
Actually, you know what? I kind of think we're always being guided to a better path. So again, it goes back to that fear and trust issues, as well as, kind of surrendering and just releasing control.
Well, I was thinking this morning, there was an image that came to my mind of this very topic in a weird way, of how life has its own way of steering us in the direction that is best. We have an internal guidance system, and we have an external guidance system. And so the internal guidance system is all about intuition and learning the messages that tell us, go in this direction, don't go in this direction, whether it be the repeating numbers that we've talked about, or whether it be learning about your body and the signals you get, that tell you something's off key or on key, right? So that's like a lifelong process of getting in touch with our internal system. But the other piece is the external system. And you mentioned the 2x4, and I was having the image this morning of how when I have gone in the wrong direction and persisted, it's like a ship, and it can be slightly off, but eventually being slightly off takes us completely in the wrong direction. And it's like when a ship enters waters that are filled with icebergs. And at first you get one iceberg, you get another, and you go, oh, I wonder where these icebergs come from. And that can be like drama showing up in life. I wonder where these, and then next thing you know, because you're entering iceberg territory, if you didn't turn around, they get bigger, they get more frequent. And eventually, if you still persist, the consequences get more serious. That's my experience of not kind of following my guidance system. It's like, now I'm like, oh my gosh, I see an iceberg. I'm going to pay attention to that message. I've learned to do that.
I love your metaphor because it's exactly a message I got from my guides in the past. They said that, when you have these habits or these ways of looking at things, a specific perspective or perception, that all you have to do is change it a teeny weeny little bit. And when you're turned just slightly and look in a different direction, as you go forward, you end up in a totally different spot.
Yeah.
And that's part of the work that I do, is help people, not to do an about face in their belief systems, because that's really pretty traumatic for a lot of people, but just to give them a little bit of space so that they can look at things differently and they end up manifesting differently. So I love your metaphor. You're right on the money.
Yeah, I mean, if we, instead of ending up in iceberg territory, if we follow we're not always going to be perfectly, like a ship is never really going in one direction. It's always modifying slightly in this way or that way, but then you may end up in the tropics. And all you did was this honoring the messages here, whereas not honoring them, they show up in the inner world, they show up in the outer world, but completely different journey.
Totally different journey. Totally different. So it's been good. Fun conversation. Yeah.
Very fun. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up for today. So thank you, Linda, for your insights.
Thank you, Michelle. And bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everyone.